All right, let's dive into freeze. From what I'm seeing, you're really interested in how to build some super robust apps.
Yeah, definitely.
The kind that are easy to maintain and
Exactly.
scale.
It looks like you've been digging into articles and docs about freezed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty powerful tool for Flutter development,
It is.
especially when you want to create what are called immutable models.
Okay, so freezed is a Dart library,
Yes.
and it uses code generation to help us make these immutable models.
Oh,
But I have to admit, immutability, I mean, it's a big word.
yeah.
I think I kind of get it.
Sure.
But can we break it down? Why is it so important, especially for Flutter?
Yeah. So immutability basically means that once an object's created,
Mm-hmm.
its state can't be changed.
Oh, okay.
And this might seem like a small thing, but it has huge implications for how predictable and maintainable your code is.
So give me an example of how that plays out in like a real app.
Okay, so imagine you're hunting down a bug
Mm.
and a user's profile is getting modified in a way that it shouldn't be.
Okay.
If you're working with mutable objects, you could have changed anywhere in your code base.
Yeah,
But-
it makes it hard to find.
Right.
Yeah.
With immutable models,
Yeah.
you know exactly where that change shouldn't be happening,
Okay.
making it way easier to pinpoint the bug.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that predictability is like a superpower for debugging.
Got it. So it's like, okay, so freezed helps us do this whole immutability thing. But how?
Well, freeze basically does all the heavy lifting for you behind the scenes.
Okay.
It uses code generation to automatically create all the boilerplate code
Mm-hmm.
that you would need to make your models immutable.
Okay.
So you can just focus on defining your data.
All right, so less typing for us.
Exactly.
All right, cool.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah, I like examples.
Let's say you're building a book library app.
Okay.
You'd probably have a book model, right?
Right.
With properties like title, author, publication year.
Yeah, makes sense.
With freezed,
Mm-hmm.
you can define this model really concisely
Okay.
and declaratively.
Yeah.
And freezed takes care of all the complexities of making sure it's immutable.
So we get like the blueprint,
Yeah.
and freezed is like,
exactly.
look, I got this.
Yeah, it's like your coding assistant doing all the tedious work.
Nice. I like it.
So you can focus on the fun stuff.
Yeah.
But it gets even better.
Okay. Lay it on me.
Freezed also has these things called union types,
Union types. So
which let you model different states of an object
Oh, okay.
in a super clean way.
Okay, so remind me, I think union types were mentioned in one of the articles.
Yeah.
I need a little refresher, though.
Sure.
What are they?
Okay, think of it like a music app, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a song,
Yeah,
and it can be playing, it can be paused, it can be buffering.
gotcha.
Those are all different states that song object can be in.
Right, yeah, okay.
Freezed union types allow you to explicitly define those states,
Right.
which makes your code a lot easier to understand.
Got it. So it's like built in, here's all the things that can happen,
Exactly, yeah.
and the code's ready for it.
Yeah, so it's a very elegant way to handle all the different possibilities in your app.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
Now, I also remember something about freezed making it easier to work with JSON,
Absolutely.
which is like essential for every app these days.
It's so important,
Yeah, I
right?
wanted
Because
to-
most apps talk to some kind of API or backend.
Exactly.
So freezed really simplifies that whole JSON handling process.
Okay.
It integrates seamlessly with JSON serialization and deserialization.
What does that mean?
So basically it means it's super easy to convert your data to and from that JSON format,
Okay.
which is essential when you're talking to APIs or even just storing data locally on the device.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me freeze can handle all that JSON conversion for me?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing.
There was one small caveat.
Yeah.
You need to use a package called JSON serializable alongside freezed,
Got it.
but they work together really well.
So it's like a tag team. They
Exactly.
both get in the ring.
They're a dynamic duo.
Okay, awesome.
So you got freezed for the immutable models
Mhm.
and JSON serializable to make sure they can be easily
Hmm.
converted to and from JSON.
God.
And that's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, there's more.
There's so much more that freeze can do.
Okay.
It even has this feature called copy with
Copy with.
for creating modified copies of your objects
Okay.
without actually changing the originals.
Okay, this is getting good, but before we go there,
Yeah.
let's just recap really quickly.
Sure.
So we've talked about why immutability is important,
Right.
and then freezed helps us make those models immutable
Yes.
without having to do all the extra typing.
Exactly.
We've also touched on union types
Right.
for handling different states of an object,
Mm-hmm.
and then JSON handling, which
Yeah.
freezed basically
Mm-hmm. Makes it a breeze.
takes care of for us
Yeah.
with a little help from his friend.
It's friend.
Now I'm really curious to see how all of this comes together in a real Flutter app.
Me too. Let's jump into some examples.
All right, let's do it.
And see how freezed can simplify your life.
I like it when things simplify my life.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go.
Let's do it.
So we talked about copy with.
Yes.
It sounded like a pretty cool feature.
It's a really handy one.
So how does it actually work?
Okay, so copy with is all about creating modified copies of your immutable objects.
Right.
It's perfect when you need to update just one specific field
Okay.
without changing the original object.
So give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you have a user model
Okay.
with properties like name, age, and email. Now, if you want to update that user's age,
Okay.
copy with lets you do that very efficiently.
So it's like, I'm picturing it as like a blueprint, right?
Yeah.
So you make a copy of the data, and then you mark up the changes you need.
Exactly.
And then you get a new version. Yeah. But the original stays the same.
It's like a time machine for your code.
I like that, yeah.
You can always revert back if you need to.
Okay, cool.
So copy with really helps preserve that data integrity while giving you the flexibility to make those changes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And speaking of data integrity,
Yeah.
freezed also helps with beta validation.
Right, I remember that from the articles.
Yeah.
Something about those at assert annotations.
Yes.
Can you explain how that works?
Sure, imagine you're building an e-commerce app.
Okay.
You have a product model
Right.
with a name, a price, and a description. Now, what if someone accidentally sets the price to a negative value?
Oh.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah, not good for business.
Not good at all.
Yeah.
So freezed lets you use these at assert annotations
Okay.
to set constraints on your model properties.
Got it.
So you can ensure that the data is always valid.
That's really useful.
It's like having a built-in quality control system.
Yeah, it's catching those errors before they become big problems.
Exactly.
It seems like freezed is really good at removing those manual tasks
It really is.
and helping us avoid potential
It
errors.
streamlines the process.
I like that.
Yeah, it lets you focus on the creative parts of building your app.
So it's not just about data models.
Right.
It's about fitting into the whole Flutter ecosystem.
It integrates seamlessly with other parts of the ecosystem.
Okay, so let's talk about state management.
Sure.
That's a big one for Flutter.
Absolutely. It's the heart of any dynamic Flutter app.
How does freezed play with state management solutions like Riverpod and Flutterblock?
Well, it provides a very structured way to represent the data that those solutions are managing.
Okay, so it's like it's all organized.
It's like having a well-organized toolbox
Mm-hmm.
where everything has its place.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
So freezed and state management,
Yeah.
they work hand in hand.
They complement each other. Okay, so if we're already using a state management solution,
Right.
adding freezed is like a natural fit.
It just makes sense.
Cool.
And what makes it even better is that freezed promotes this way of thinking about data
Okay.
that aligns perfectly with state management principles.
So immutability, clear state definitions,
Exactly.
robust data validation.
You got it.
It's all connected.
It's all part of building a solid foundation for your app.
I like it. It's like freezed is guiding us toward best practices.
It's a gentle nudge in the right direction.
Okay, cool.
It's encouraging you to build apps that are not just feature-rich, but also maintainable and scalable.
But let's be realistic for a second.
Sure.
Every tool has its quirks.
Of course.
Are there any gotchas with freezed?
That's a great question, and it's always good to be aware of potential challenges.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind is that freezed relies heavily on code generation.
Okay.
So you need to make sure your development environment is set up correctly.
So like having the right tools and plugins.
Exactly. You need to be able to trigger that code generation process.
Got it.
It might seem a bit intimidating at first,
Yeah.
but the freeze documentation is excellent.
Okay, so there's help out there.
There's plenty of guidance available.
Good.
And once you have that initial setup done, freeze actually simplifies things quite a bit.
Okay.
You'll be writing less code manually,
Less typing. I like it.
less chance for errors,
Even better.
and your code will be more organized.
So it's worth that initial setup.
It's an investment that pays off.
All right, I'm convinced.
Now, are you ready for a little surprise?
Oh, a surprise. I love surprises. What is it?
Freezed has a bit of a hidden talent.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. So you were saying freezed has this hidden talent.
It does.
I'm ready to hear it.
Okay, so remember all those tedious boilerplate tasks
Oh, yeah?
that freeze takes care of?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it can actually help us implement design patterns.
Design patterns. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I always thought those were like super advanced,
They can be?
like for those super senior engineers.
Right.
So what do you mean?
Well, imagine you're building a drawing app,
Okay.
and you need to represent different shapes, like circles, rectangles.
Yep.
You could use what's called the factory pattern
Factory pattern.
to define a generic shape class
Okay.
and then create concrete implementations for each shape type. Freezed can actually handle the structural parts of this pattern for you,
Oh, okay.
generating the code for each shape class.
So it's like it understands the pattern.
Yeah, and it makes sure they adhere to the structure of that pattern.
Okay, so it's like we're getting a blueprint
Exactly.
for how to do this pattern.
Yeah, it's like a design pattern assistant built right into your code.
That's amazing.
You don't have to write all that code yourself.
Freezed is doing it for me.
Exactly. You can focus on the unique logic for each shape.
Like how to actually draw the circle.
Exactly, like calculating its area or drawing it on the screen.
That's amazing. I never would have guessed.
It's one of those things that makes Freezed so powerful.
Yeah.
You start using it for one thing, and then you discover all these other capabilities.
So many hidden depths.
Right. It's like, hey, I can do this too.
Like, oh, you need to handle JSON. I got that.
Exactly.
And the cool thing is, Freezed is always evolving.
Constantly being updated and improved.
That's what I love about Flutter.
Me too.
There's this energy.
It's a very active community.
Yeah, and everyone's helping make these tools better.
Always pushing the boundaries.
But for me, the biggest takeaway from all of this, it's not just about the features.
It's about the mindset.
Freezed is like a philosophy.
It's a way of thinking about code.
You know, it's about building these robust apps that are going to last.
It's about embracing best practices and writing clean, maintainable code.
So for anyone listening who's been thinking about trying Freezed, I hope we've convinced you.
I think so.
It's a great investment in your skills and your projects.
And the best way to learn is to just dive in.
Yeah, start small.
Experiment, explore.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
The Flutter community is incredibly supportive.
That's so true. It's a great community.
So yeah, jump in and have fun with it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We went from immutability all the way to design patterns.
It's a journey.
But it doesn't stop here.
Keep learning, keep building.
Exactly, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Flutter.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy coding, everyone.